Welcome back to another edition of Fly Tying for Beginners. Today we're going to tie a purple Prince John. The hook I have in the vise is a 3769 size 8. This is a wet Nymph fly, 2 extra heavy, from Green Caddis Outfitters, greencaddis.com. I have a glass bead on there. That's a purple glass bead. And I got these glass beads from a department store, and they're very cheap, $1.50 for all of these pieces here, and they come from the jewelry section. Our wire also comes from the jewelry section in the department store, and this is a nice royal purple. And we're going to use a purple Hackle for the tail, and we're going to use a purple dubbing for the thorax, and of course white Goose Biot for the wing. I'm going to use black 70 denier thread, and these glass beads, they are all oddly shaped, so they're very loose, and a lot of them will go right over the eye of the hook. This is a size 8, so that's why it's stopping it. I'm going to put a little bit of a base on at the eye. We'll kind of make a head on it, and we're going to build up some thread here so the bead will be tight on there. You can build it up and just test it as you're going. Build up that head there, and now there, that's tight right there. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick whip finish. We're going to push that up on there. First, I'm going to put a little bit of head cement on there to help hold it in there. And we're going to just push that up on there. And the glass beads are usually misshaped, so you want to make sure that you get it to where you like it, if you're using super glue especially, because once that's on there, that's going to be on there. I'm going to reattach my thread behind the eye, and I'm going to bring the thread back down to the tail. I'm not real concerned if I get touching wraps on this. That body's going to be covered with wire. Go ahead and break that off. This is a saltwater hackle dyed purple. It kind of looks blue because of my blue shirt, but I'm going to take a nice amount of hackle for the tail. I might even put 2 sections on if I think it needs it. I'm going to tie that in, and the tail should be about the length of the hook shank. I'm going to put another little section on there. Just get that tail a little bit thicker. Secure that right down to the back, and then I'm going to put a wrap underneath the tail, and that's going to pick it up. Nice, fairly nice tail there now. I'm going to bring the thread back to the top. I'm going to take my wire, and when I use this wire, it's very springy when it wraps on there. So I'll take off one wrap and lock it back in with that notch. And this is copper wire coated or painted, whatever it is, with the purple. I'm going to set that into the bead, and we want to make sure that we tie this down very tightly, because if you don't, the wire, when you start to wind it, it will roll your tail. So you want to make sure that's tied in there very tightly so it doesn't roll for you. I'm going to bring that right back to the tail. This is 26 gauge wire. You can use a lighter wire. If you have smaller, if you make smaller flies with it, a lighter wire would be in order. Now I have the wire attached. I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick half hitch, and I'm going to set it in my bobbin cradle. I'm going to take that and bend that first one, and then you want to get that first one, especially you want that to get pretty tight wrap. And then we're going to take this and wind this forward. You want to lead your wire a little bit to the back so it makes nice tight wraps. It'll roll off the previous wrap. And this is a trout fly. You'd fish it just like a nymph on the bottom. But this would also, I believe, would make a nice steelhead fly. I'm going to come up to the bead, bring that right up to that top there. Then I'm going to helicopter this off. Now I'm going to wrap in the end we want to fill in a couple of the wire loops so that when we tie our wing on, we don't get it sliding down and then the wire sliding inside between the wire, and then the wing would just go up to the top. So I'm going to bring that thread back maybe half the size of the bead. Now I'm going to take a pair of white Goose Biots. We're going to tie them on, and a lot of times the Goose Biots have a concave to them, so you want to make sure that concave is going down. I'm going to tie this, and I'm going to extend that wing just into the tail slightly. We want to cross wrap these. We're going to measure that up. Hold that in place and wrap that. And this is what I mean by cross wrapping it. You could take them and adjust them so they're not so far splayed apart. It's like so. We're going to secure them down a little bit tighter. But don't wrap all the way to the bead, because when you go to trim them off, the bead sometimes gets in the way and then you have a piece going up. We're going to trim them off nice and close. And clean that up. Now I'm going to take my dubbing whirl, and I'm going to make myself a dubbing loop here. And I'm going to use, this is Angora. You could use any hairy purple dubbing. I'm going to put that in there, and I'm going to spread that out a little bit. But you want a dubbing noodle so that you kind of have a little bit of a veil with the dubbing. I'm going to give that a spin. There we go. And you can see it's pretty hairy there. We're going to wrap this. Bring that right up, and we're going to tie that off. Go ahead and trim off that excess. I'm going to take a dubbing teaser, and I want to pull some of that dubbing out, just so it flows back there a little bit. And this is the purpose, the reason why we made a dubbing loop. You'll be able to get that flow better. Now there's a little bit too much on that top there. I'm just going to go ahead and trim those long hairs out of there. We have a nice teased out body there. Now to finish it off, I have another purple saddle. Saltwater hackle. Need to trim just a little bit of that, maybe half. There we go. I gave it that crew cut there. You can see the crew cut, and that gives the thread something to hold to. Tie that in. We're going to give that a few wraps. I'm going to pull it to one side. And I'm going to pull it towards the rear as I go also. Maybe give that like 2 wraps, and we're going to tie that. Put a couple of wraps in front to lock it in. We're going to remove that excess. Now I'm going to pull the hackle towards the rear, and I'm going to put a couple of wraps right on top of it. Just maybe 1 or 2 thread widths, just to help it go back like that. Now I have pretty decent amount of thread there. So I'm going to take just a little bit more of my dubbing. Just a small amount, enough to hide that thread. Just going to dub this on. Going to take my dubbing or my whip finish. And give that like 3 turns. Take a little bit of head cement, put it on the bead, and let that slide back to secure it. And here we have a purple Prince John. Hope that you learned something from this video. Hope you would subscribe to my channel. Please refer me to your friends. Leave comments, questions, suggestions, and most of all, thank you very much for watching my videos.